All right, let's get into it. Week 6. I'll run down this real quick, Ben. Injuries, Derek Carr with the oblique. I don't know if he plays in this upcoming week. They're actually, last I looked, they are home dogs now to the Bucks. I don't know what the look ahead was on this, but my guess is that they wouldn't have been home dogs in a divisional spot, right? Like
Yeah,
probably -2.5.
that'd be my
Yeah.
guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
something
Now
like
they're
that.
-3, or sorry, now they're +2. Richardson, I think Richardson's definitely back this week. That's my guess. Will Levis is questionable, but I don't care about that. Jonathan Taylor at running back, Joe Mixon, Jalen Warren, Jonathan Brooks, see if he comes back. Damian Pierce, Zamir White, many of those are particularly irrelevant. And then at wide receiver, AJ Brown and Devontae Smith coming off the bye. I'd say I would put Devontae Smith as probable. I'd put AJ Brown as questionable. We don't have reports there yet. Christian Watson, I'd say questionable, probably doubtful. Xavier Legette said he'll play. And then the only other one, Devontae Adams, I have as doubtful. I'm just giving you my own thoughts. But I have Nico Collins as doubtful too. When you list a guy as week to week, it generally means they're not playing the upcoming week. Did I lose Ben? Okay, so hopefully he'll be back. Let's get into quarterbacks. When Ben returns, we will talk. What a slate, though. You have 10 games and a a dearth of value. Means not a lot of value. Upper tier, you look at Lamar, Jaden Daniels, and Jalen Hurts. I'm not confident in Jalen Hurts right now. As a matter of fact, they're 9.5-point favorites against the Browns. I'm legitimately considering betting the Browns in this game. You don't know if AJ Brown's going to be back. Devontae Smith should be back. I think Goddard looks good, but looking at Lamar Jackson and Jaden Daniels in this spot, I want you guys to do something real quick. Go in to say DraftKings and just try to build out a lineup, just like a shell lineup. Put a few guys you like in there. Try and put some expensive guys in there and see what happens. Try and go with like the Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers stack with an expensive player in there as well. Try a Dak Prescott along with CeeDee Lamb. See how difficult it is to get value. So I think these type of spots, no storms here. So working on, all right. So Ben's trying to get back. Looking at Lamar Jackson, I don't know. It's tough to play this game. You can, Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, 6.5-point spread, 6+ point dogs this year are, but it's something stupid like 10-2 straight up or something ridiculous. On the money line, they've crushed it against the spread. This should be a close game. And we saw Baltimore just get carved up in the passing game again. Sure, divisional spot. I know Lamar Jackson's fantastic against teams that are not in his conference. What is he like 20-1 straight up? So I'm not saying he doesn't get the win here, but this defense has not been good. They've given up 20+ plays of 20+ yards. I can't help but think if you can get this game, you're going to want to get this game, but there's other games that you're going to want to get to that might be cheaper at quarterback. Jaden Daniels is proving himself week over week. Lamar Jackson is, one of the preeminent fantasy quarterbacks in the league. I'm looking at Lamar and Jaden Daniels up top. I'm not going to Jalen Hurts there. I don't think it's worth it. You have Lamar and you have and plus they might just run Saquon Barkley as much as possible in this game as near double-digit favorites. Lamar and Jaden Daniels look better than anybody else in this spot. If you're just tuning in, Ben's trying to get back. He just froze up and fell off, so we'll see what happens. But we're good. We're good because he will join us momentarily. Lamar and Jaden Daniels up top, unequivocally the best options. You might be asking about CJ Stroud too. I don't love CJ Stroud right now, assuming that Nico's out. That team didn't look right. They're big favorites, obviously. But I don't think the Patriots just lay down in this spot defensively at home. Without Nico Collins, that offense looked dysfunctional. I think you could still look to Stephon Diggs, even though they've preeminently priced him up on DraftKings. It's Lamar and Daniels up top. And then in the mid-range, Dak Prescott against Detroit. That's an ugly spot because you have no Brandon Cook. So then you just kind of run into the question of like, okay, who do we go with outside of CeeDee Lamb? And CeeDee Lamb is $8,600, insanely expensive in that spot. Outside of CeeDee Lamb, it's Jalen Tolbert, it's Kavonte Turpin, it's Brooks, who, you know, is getting limited opportunities. Hey, what's up, brother? And of course, Ferguson. You good?
I'm fine. I don't know what goes on. It's not my internet. It's beautiful here.
Weird. I was just
Okay.
talking about the top tier of quarterbacks and how for me it's unequivocally Lamar Jackson and Jaden Daniels, and I'm not getting to Jalen Hurts, and I don't want CJ Stroud without Nico Collins, even as a big favorite on the road.
Yeah, I'll catch us up. For me, it's Lamar. I like Baltimore in that game. I like Lamar. Big games, he seems to show up and he's more willing to run. I like Dak. It seems like Detroit more than happy to get into up and down games. Dak threw the ball 42 times against Pittsburgh. There's a much better matchup than this.
I was just
What about
on
Peyton?
Dak, by the way. I
What'd you
was
say?
considering him mid-range,
Okay.
like sub 7K. The problem I'm having though, and I mentioned this to everyone who's listening now while you were you know, doing whatever you had to do. But the Dak stack with CeeDee Lamb is expensive as hell. You're not going to be able to run on Detroit. So I do love that they're a pass funnel defense. And we saw that with Seattle last week in prime time. The only question becomes like how it's really tough to pay for expensive guys this week. So how would you do it?
So I think part of it is I'm kind of betting as we get every week. People are gonna randomly become value. So like I
That's
can
true.
sketch it. What'd you say?
I said that's true.
You know, like there's just so many spots. People are look at you know look at the Giants last week. Look at some of these spots. Value pops up. So I think it can be done. The problem I have is I don't really want to punt quarterback. I don't like these spots. Maybe. Hmm.
I'd go as far to say that you can't punt quarterback unless you go Justin Fields. I think he's the only viable sub 6K quarterback on this entire slate.
What about Knicks?
Why are you trying to pull me back into this shit? But no, not against the Chargers defense. I
I
really do have
agree.
a lot of respect for this Chargers D. A
So do
lot of
I.
respect for Harbaugh. You know, when you look at the games that they've played this year, they're 2-2. They lost to Pittsburgh, but it was a 20-10 game, and Justin Herbert was clearly not right. And then Taylor Heineke had to come in. Against Kansas City, they only allowed 17 points to the Kansas City Chiefs. They just can't score points. The defense hasn't been a problem. They've allowed 10, 3, 20, and 17 points on the season. For me, it's just, I'm not going to, it's Justin Fields or bust in the low tier.
It has to be that. There's like I legitimately can't counter that like thought process.
And then in the mid tier, okay, I'll put it to you this way. At the top tier, there's two guys I like. It's Lamar and Jaden Daniels. We know Lamar crushes
Yeah.
out of conference teams as well. I'm still not confident betting him as a 6.5 point favorite though, because Jaden Daniels continues to prove me wrong. In the mid tier, I'm with you on Dak. I think Jared Goff is viable. And then there's two others, Kyler Murray against the Packers and Kirk Cousins. What about Jordan Love?
Yeah, I think you can keep buying on him. He's making a lot of mistakes. Doesn't in some ways it accelerates it. 26 attempts against the Rams is a little surprising. It was a weird game though. I definitely have Dak ahead of him, but he's in the conversation. The 6K range is the best range for the quarterbacks.
Ahead of Lamar and Jaden?
No, ahead of Jaden for me, but in terms of just prevalence of plays,
Yeah.
Murray,
Oh,
Dak,
okay.
Love,
Yeah.
Baker, Goff, Cousins, I think you could play all of them and
So
be
from a
fine
volume standpoint.
from a volume standpoint. Yeah.
All right. Up top for me, Lamar Jackson. Jordan, if you want to throw these in, I'm going to go down the list, Ben. Mid-range for me is I'm going to go Dak here. This is one of those spots where I like it. You're just going to have to find value, and I'll roll with you that things will open up throughout the week, but it is tough. I tried it earlier. It is tough. And then Justin Fields to me is just the default option. And I do like him. I like Justin Fields here against a really bad, I said it last week with Sutton. It just didn't materialize for him, but they scored 34 points against a really bad Raiders defense. And I think a team that has a ton of internal dysfunction right now that hasn't really come to the surface.
No arguments there. Again, some of this is you're just funneled into certain tiers. I know you don't like to do this. I don't really care. I don't think it's a bad thing. I'm taking the same three. I'm taking the same three.
That's okay. I told you. I told you before the show started. This is a weird slate. If there was ever a time to do it, this is it.
It's just those are the guys that I like at those price points. I'm not gonna. There are other options. There are pivots. We'll let ownership do its work. That's what the slate is giving us. Sometimes you have to just take what they're giving you, and to me, this is kind of that example.
If you had to give one more mid-range guy because it is a voluminous tier, who would it be?
It would actually just be Goff on the other side of the game.
Okay.
He's been super efficient. Doesn't mean that they won't up the volume if they have to.
I'll go Jordan Love. I think this is a nice bounce back spot for him. I bet the Rams plus 3.5 last week. They had every single opportunity to. The Rams outplayed the Packers last week. They did, and they still didn't.
I don't know. The Rams are a weird team, honestly. They just they confuse me.
Very weird team.
We don't have to deal with them, but yeah.